Mimi didn't want her little sister to know that she had hit the nail right on the head when she said Matt was cute. She thought he was the cutest guy she had ever seen. When she was back home, all the kids treated him so bad she hardly ever even looked at the other kids. When she was with her Aunt Charlene, she was finally able to forget those mean kids and enjoy little things like trips to the mall and beauty parlor and wearing nice clothes. But this was a whole new life, and she was sure she was going to like it here, especially since she was going to see Matt every day. She didn't care if the evil twin didn't like her. She was used to being around people that didn't like her. She could just ignore her like she ignored all those bad kids from back home. The most important thing was her Aunt Denise wanted her there and treated her nice. Her sister was happy and she could see Matt every day. She refused to even think about her sullen brother who was determined to be miserable no matter where they were. So all she could do was say later for him. Taking a deep breath, Mimi pulled her covers over her ears, smiled, and went to sleep. When Matt and Jay finally got to their room, Matt found his new roommate to be the most stubborn, sullen, and mean kid he had ever seen. No matter what Matt said, he was met with teeth sucking, items being snatched, and the refusal to meet him even a fraction of an inch of the way. Feeling like he'd had too wonderful a day to allow this little runt to ruin it with his pent up frustrations, Matt simply pointed out to him his bed and went about his nightly routine and was soon on the bed, facing the wall, and before long was sound asleep, leaving Jay to sulk without an audience. When Denise finally stepped out of the shower and sat on the edge of her bed, she couldn't stop smiling as she thought about her wonderful children. She had to admit that having 6 kids in the house was going to be a challenge, and she knew Jay and Net were going to be the most challenging. But all in all, she felt the first day turned out to be beautiful, and she knew that with lots of prayer, God was going to help her to face the challenge, and together they were going to win. She was a bit disturbed at Jay's little show of defiance, but she expected a bit of attitude here and there and was sure things would iron themselves out as they all got to know each other better. She was concerned about her youngest daughter's dislike of the new kids, which was quite obvious to her. But she refused to feed into that either for fear of fanning the flames. She was sure that with time, Net would come around, and when she saw that she was not going to be neglected just because the new kids were there, yes, she definitely had her job cut out for her, and she wasn't worried. She wasn't worried at all. As she swung her legs onto her bed and pulled the cover up to her neck, she suddenly remembered something she had meant to speak to Matt about before he went to bed, but forgot about in the hubbub of everybody taking baths and getting ready for bed. He had said the coach had come to help them pick up the furniture. She wasn't sure who this coach was and was concerned that the kids had allowed a stranger to come into her house when she wasn't home. They knew the house rules, and she was very concerned that they would break them. They said they tried to get her brother TJ, but he was unavailable, so they had no choice. But who was this coach guy? The only coach she knew was Matt's coach at school, but he was white. She could hardly remember what he looked like, although she did vaguely remember he was good looking. But was this really the coach that had helped them this afternoon? She hoped so because at least he was someone the kids knew from school, and she had met him on a couple of occasions. She was going to have to talk to Matt about this tomorrow, and she made a mental note not to forget to bring it up with the kids the next day before surrendering to the pillow of sleep and closed her eyes for the night. When Will had finished washing his dinner dishes, he went to his closet and moved clothes back and forth until he found his black shirt with the white cuffs to wear with the gray suit he had picked out after leaving the Joneses kids earlier that afternoon. He was so impressed by the thoughtfulness of Denise's kids that he felt an aching in his heart for his wife and the children they would never have. In a time like this, when kids had so little respect for their elders and themselves, and the promiscuity was the hit of the day, to find three young people so eager to please their mother was endearing. After he left them, he realized he had to do everything in his power to get to know this wonderful woman who, even in her absence, could influence her children to want to redecorate a room to please her instead of throwing a wild house party for their friends. He went to the store and purchased a new suit and was getting the accessories together because he wanted to look just right when he went to church in the morning. Ever since his talk with his former pastor, he knew he wasn't going to be attending his old church anymore, but he hadn't quite made up his mind where he was going to go. But after spending the day with the Jones children, his mind was made up. He was going to attend the church with his family. Sure, they weren't a family yet, but deep in his heart, he knew this was going to be his new family. And even though he hadn't even had a first date with Denise yet, he was willing to wait until the Lord brought them together. In the meantime, he wanted to be near them to get to know them better and for them to get to know him better. And what better place for that to happen than in the house of the Lord? He didn't know how many white people attended their church, if any. But if he was going to be the first, so be it, because he was on a mission and he had God on his side. Yes, they were going to be surprised to see him walk into church tomorrow, but they might as well get used to it because William Banyan was going to be there to stay. With those thoughts swimming around in his head, Will finished setting his clothes out for the next day and went to bed. Chapter 7. Let the church say amen. Cherie woke up on Sunday morning with the feeling of pure jubilation running through her body. It had been 2 weeks since she and Danny had decided to go to Matt's church to impress and trap him and Rife. Every day was a challenge not to leak the news to Maddie that they were going to his church, but Danny threatened her with death if she spilled the beans. What was even harder was to walk around Maddie and pretend she wasn't interested in him. But it was going to be well worth the effort when she saw the look on his sisters' faces when they walked into their church. The day before their grand entrance, she and Danny went shopping at the Roosevelt Field shopping mall to get new clothes, and they couldn't have been more excited if it was Christmas morning. They each had convinced their mothers they were serious about attending church for honorable reasons and was rewarded with money to buy new outfits. And as usual, they fought over everything from outfits to shoes to hairstyles. They decided to get outfits that clung to their curves and hopefully catch the eye of every available man in the building, and neither cared if the cleavage line was too low or the skirt or pants too short or too tight. Look, Danny, this pantsuit is the bomb, Cherie said, holding a gorgeous green pantsuit that sported tiny gold rhinestone buttons on the jacket, lapel, and cuffs. Word, that is hot, but see if they have it in red. Come to think of it, red would look better, but then I won't have any shoes to match. Don't worry, you can wear my black shoes My black and red ones. Thanks. And I know you're not thinking about getting that, she said, referring to the skirt suit her best friend was holding. I was. I mean, I know the skirt's kind of long, but the jacket is hot. I won't wear a top under it so you can see my tattoo really good, she said, referring to the tattoo of Lola Bunny and Bugs kissing each other on her breasts. Well, good for the jacket and the tattoo and the tits and all, but that skirt is just too long. You don't want to walk around looking like Grandma Moses in no skirt that reaches almost down to your ankles.